what you will do, so when you go to the say those like outdoorsy work, and then you saw it ticks, so we always say that don't squeeze the tick, because if you squeeze the tick, if you push like this, then if you push like this, then you are squeezing their belly, and it's kind of the ticks, that the hypostome is kind of needle. So if you push, then you are injecting the material to yourself, to your body. So just take a tweezer and then take like this, and then jerk it out. So that way you properly take the tick out. And then we ask them that you take the picture of the ticks and send it to certain website, that certain email, and they'll immediately get it back that your tick looks like exotis, or your looks like this. So please keep the tick in freeze for 1 month. If you're symptomatic, take the tick with you to the doctor. But for US, I think I would always suggest that you have a, definitely your house has some sorts of small like pill container. Every household has it. When they get pills from the drugstore, they have those plastic container, so they can put it there and then just stuck in the fridge. And if you don't get any symptoms in 4 weeks time, just throw them out.
Immigrant Nation, welcome again. My name is Martin, your host, and today, Tribe, we have the honor to speak to Dr. Mohammed Morshed. He is an inspiring immigrant success story and a global leader in microbiology. Born in Bangladesh, he pursued his MSc in microbiology at Dhaka University and later earned his PhD in medical microbiology from Yamaguchi University in Japan. Overcoming the challenges of adopting a new culture and new systems. Now he is a clinical professor at the University of British Columbia and head of zoonotic and emerging pathogens at BCCDC. Dr. Morshed has transformed our understanding of Lyme disease and syphilis, contributing over 150 scientific publications and receiving accolades like the RBC Top 25 Canadian Immigrants Award. His groundbreaking research, global advocacy, and commitment to immigrants' health makes him a true trailblazer. Dr. Morshed, welcome to the Immigrant Nation. What challenges did you face as an immigrant from Bangladesh, both in Japan and Canada, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, thank you, Martin, for inviting me to your show, and I appreciated that. And I also appreciate your viewer and listener
Of
for
course.
listening our stories. And thank you for the first question. Um, the both countries in Japan and Canada, especially in Vancouver, uh, they're two different countries, two different nations. Japan, as you know, that while I was there as a graduate student, um, they are not very welcoming foreigners at that time, but for students they welcome us very very well. But now the situation changed, so now they give kind of permanent residence or citizenship to foreigners, but that time it was even a dream. That was in 90s I'm talking about. And the culture barrier was the first barrier that I faced in Japan, because I had no Japanese knowledge prior to landing in Fukuoka airport back in 1989. And then the next challenge was food, because as you know, I'm from Bangladesh, so we used to very much used to curry rice and all the spicy food. And in Japan, it's mostly blended food. And then also when I was first offered the sushi, that I was almost throwing up. But now sushi is my most favorite food. So so this is about Japan. And but people are very nice. They're very humble, and they're very very welcoming. So I really really appreciate that. And I always thought that Japan is my second home after few years staying over there. And if I talk about Vancouver, as you know, is a very diversified, multicultural city. So, and then if you walk around Vancouver, that that you will hit all sorts of people when you will be walking across the road, and then you will be hearing lots of different accent, different language. If you ride on train or bus, you'll be seeing different conversation happening in different language. So it is a different city. But the time that I came here, that was in 1997. So if you remember, Martin, that time a recession was going on. So virtually there was nothing. But I can share you one story because I did my PhD and went back home, and I was associate professor there, and then I couldn't find much hope because of the unrest in that country during that time. So decided to come here. But to make the long story short, we came here, we saw the situation is totally different, and then there is no job, nothing. So it was very, very disheartening at that time. But when we came, that was the month of September. And September here, you know, that just prior to winter, so it is very comfortable time. People using tees and shorts and going to the park and those kind of things. And the day one, I went to the university and I was wearing the sweater and scarf and head cap and things. So everybody was looking at me. So I thought, why they're looking at me? As this, but now I understand that I was really feeling cold at that time in September. So now, after 27 years, I feel the same, that I use tees and shorts during September. But that was a culture shock. If you think about this kind of climatic culture shock. But the people are also welcoming here. But the life initially was extremely challenging when we landed here.
When you say life was extremely challenging when you landed in Vancouver, Canada, could you be a little bit more elaborate? What does that challenge look like?
Yeah, as for example, that when I was in Japan, initially I was myself, and then after 6 months, my wife and my own daughter, she joined, both of them joined me. And then we never had any kind of issues, that we had so much help was given by the volunteer society in Japan, and also my university, in terms of my housing, in terms of my living, and then shopping and everything. So I was kind of, I was there as a guest kind of thing. But when I came here, we all three came here together. From the day one, you are on yourself. Nobody, if you ask somebody, so everybody is busy, nobody has time to talk to you, so you are on yourself. Even I remember that I wanted to type a CV, and I went to one of the multicultural center, and they said, yeah, I have to pay $3 to type my CV by myself, to use the computer. So that was a shock for me. So and then I said I need a print. So if you print, you have to give another $2. So it was kind of very, I found, because I was not used to that kind of situation, I found this kind of shock. It's very kind of commercial society, give and take. So there is no heart-to-heart relationship. Even saying hi, then people other side, they feel that why he's saying hi to me. So this is what I felt at that time. So there is always suspicion, always there is a kind of benefit and loss, always there is kind of why I'm helping in that guy, what I'll be getting. So those kind of issues are there, I felt at the beginning, if I'm too honest with you.
So, how have things changed since then? I mean, that's 27 years ago.
Yeah.
I hope, 27 years later, you're still not hidden behind that mask of cultural shocks. How different are things now?
No, I think that now is life is much better, and then we overcome lots of things over the time. And I came to a very known person in the community, and then now I didn't know whoever from Bangladesh is here at the beginning. That took almost a couple of weeks to find out. And now whole community knows me, and not only Bangladesh community, my Canadian friends and my other friends like that from other countries, that I have lots of friends now around. So now the situation is completely different. So how did it happen that first 3 months was very very challenging, as I said that I came here as during the recession time. Even my wife and me both, we got PhD from Japan. We knocked every single door. There is not a single job. Even there is a not job in Tim Horton or Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald. Even it was that situation, desperate situation. So I don't know what to do. I was really frustrated because I was a associate professor back home. My wife was senior scientific officer in Bangladesh Atomic Energy Commission, which is a very prestigious organization. And then we were nowhere in here when we came, and that was really I was at one point I was scared. Then ultimately I contacted my professor and then my other connection in Japan, and then fortunately within 2 months I got a very lucrative scholarship as a visiting professor in Japan using JSPS scholarship or fellowship called Japanese Society of Promotion of Science. So I left my wife and daughter here, and then I myself went there to do a 3 month assignment. And before I was going there, I saw a tiny advertisement, and you can believe that was, I don't know, it was kind of a coincidence or something. Looks like somebody just transcribed my CV in that advertisement. So they wanted a person with a PhD, has experience in Lyme disease and spirochetes, and have published paper. Everything is fit with my CV. So I dropped my application, and then I went there for 3 months, and then I got a huge amount of money. So I sent money to my wife to survive here, and then the interview was taken, and somehow I thought I'll not get the job because I was in Japan and they are here. So they video conferenced me, and then after just before I coming here about 2 weeks ago, I got an offer that I got the job. So that was the job at BCCDC as head of vector-borne disease. So that was my start. So I never looked back after that, and from there I
So I am hearing you talking about separation from
yeah,
your
family.
immediate family, and this happens to a lot of immigrants. It's almost a requirement, if you ask me, where immigrants are separated from their immediate family. What was that experience like for you?
Ah, whenever I think that was not easy time. That was not easy time. Still, I feel, and the 3 months was 90 days, but you can believe that I brought those things that I bought because I had to call my family using the phone card, and
Yeah.
then I had about over 200 phone card I used. So it was this stack of phone card. So that is the way I keep connected with them. But fortunately, the connection from Japan and Vancouver was really good. It was not from the Canada and Bangladesh, because Bangladesh and Canada, that when we call, that out of 30 minutes, 20 minutes, we have to say, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" So at least we didn't have to do that. So we did communicate, but that was a really tough time.
So what was that experience of living in Canada? I mean, where your wife was living in Canada, you're
Yeah.
living in Japan. Was the sacrifice your wife paid worth the struggle?
Yeah, the struggle was that she didn't know anybody during that time, and my daughter was only 7 years old. And then I left, as I said you, that I left in December, like around 1st or 2nd December, I can remember. So that year there was a huge snowfall, so she cannot go for shopping because we didn't have a car or anything. I just left them in an apartment building. So they had a very, very hard time during my absence. And then only thing that we both cried over phone. Yeah, that was that was that was really a tough time. Yeah, that was really a tough time.
Sometimes
Yeah,
sometimes pain has a way to bring the very best out of
yeah,
us. You obviously persevered through, and here you are as one of the leading uh, candidates in the field of microbiology. So what was it like for someone as qualified as you and someone as qualified as your wife to go out looking for entry job wages and still not find a job even on a minimum wage type of a pay?
yeah. I think that now, after 27 years, if I had the knowledge that I have today, my wife and I m- may not have that hard time, because now I kind of counsel lots of young student, young immigrants, and our community people, and then many other people. They reach me because of my name and because I'm in the system for so long. And I only tell them one thing, that you cannot give up. Number one, you have to be very, very resilient, and you will
Mm-hmm.
not look on the negative and then get depressed. That will not take you anywhere. You have to be very resilient. And I always say that when you come to a new country, better, if it is possible, get one of them educated, even 3 months or 6 month training in some area. That might land you a job much easier than you anticipate, and you will go through your professional track than going through odd job. Because what I have seen, that when people started to manage their family doing odd job, it's very difficult to get out from that vicious cycle. I'll tell you one story, that when I got that top 25 immigrant award, and then I was invited to receive the award, and then they asked me to say something, and that was in RBC building in downtown on the 57th floor. I believe that I was given that award, and that program was happening, lots of food, people are cheering, enjoying. So I said that, that I'm talking here, coming from Bangladesh, and you bestowed that best honor that I don't know whether I deserve, but you gave it to me. But there are many like me. Just now, you go to the Robson Square, you go to the Barad Street, you'll be seeing their driving cab. They are either doctor or PhD or engineer or lawyer. And unfortunately, they didn't get the opportunity that I got. If they would get opportunity like me, all of them would be here today. And that is true, because whenever I go for conference, and my habit is talking to people, so I talk to taxi driver, and believe me, I have heard none that they are under 12th grade education, and mostly they are immigrant, those taxi driver, either Indian or Bangladeshi or East European or African or Middle Eastern. All of them are qualified professionals. So what happens then, when you drive cab 8 to 8 or 8 to 12, when you go home, you have no energy to do your CV or your resume and submit somewhere. So you are in that cycle, then you used to that life, and then your children get better, but you have to sacrifice your life to get away from that.
These are the conversations we want to
Yeah,
have on this show, right? And so how do immigrants who are listening to you break from the cycle of odd jobs and
yeah,
actually plug themselves in the professional skills that they actually started training in?
yeah. So that is what I'm saying, that every unfortunately in North America and US and Canada and some of European countries, they have a kind of like technology institute. They give kind of short training in every field, either
Okay, you're talking about
microbiology.
technical schools, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
what I'm suggesting, if they do not get job right away, they should go to that institute, check with their advisor that what is best for me. I need to enter to the job market. So those short training will give them opportunity to land to the right place. As for example, that I have given many advice to here the community people. I said that that you have done masters in back home. Why don't you go to PCIT and tell them that I wanted to do training on the laboratory technologist or like imaging technology, or I wanted to do ultrasound or whatever, and then I wanted to be on the job market, and they will give you maximum 2 years training, and then sometime the Canada give the scholarship also, so government give loan, so you can take the loan from the government, do the training, then you don't have to look for the job. People will be looking for you to get you, because when we as an immigrant, they don't know us, and it is not their fault either. Now being an employer, I can say that because I also interview people. So any organization will be wanting somebody that know that that person will not be a bad apple in that system. So everybody that the both side is fearful, the job seeker and job giver said they both wanted a right kind of individual. So if you get that stamp that I got a Canadian experience, I've been to the institute, and you see my CV, and then that Martin is my reference, Martin knows me, otherwise nobody knows me. Like when I talk to you, then you know about me, then you can tell about me. But if nobody knows, then I'm a brand new, so okay, sorry, because there are many other candidates as well, so I'm not the only candidate. So
Do successful immigrants have a responsibility to speak to other immigrants and guide them on how they can be able to accelerate their progression in foreign countries?
yeah, absolutely, and definitely that is the key. Talking to people, communication is the number one factor for success. Communication is the number one factor for success. And I was also the past president of Dhaka University Microbiology Alumni Association in North America. So during my time, and still I am associated with there as an advisory position. So every year we do 2 or 3 sessions how to be naturalized and like citizenship, getting citizenship in USA, or how to come to USA and Canada as a PhD student. How, so we can do all sorts of training session there. So we provide the information, and that I think that every countries they should do those, launching those kind of information. And another thing that I find that is very interesting, that if you believe in any faith, either you Muslim or Christian or Jewish or Hindu or whatever your religion is, that is another place for the worship. If you go there, you will find many good people, and then you can connect and you can ask for the advice, and they can provide some advice as well.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, you've settled into Canada now. You've come back from Japan. You're getting into your career. When you're approaching public health, how did your experiences in Bangladesh and Japan shape your approach to science and public health in Canada?
Yeah, Bangladesh public health situation is really is definitely not good, and Japan public health was very good, but I was not directly associated with the public health because I was a student and I had to focus my PhD thesis, and that was totally laboratory based work. I was trying to find out how, if somebody infected with a pathogen, then how that mother's antibody transferred to their children. So that was my thesis work. So I was doing that in a mouse model. So I had to infect mice and then fed to the infected baby or non-infected baby, something like that. Is a complicated experiment. So then I can tell that certain part of the antibody or certain class of antibody goes through breast milk, certain goes through placenta. So those are my work. So I had no way to actively participate with the public health, but I in the meetings and lectures and things, their public health machinery is extremely good. And also that where I am at BC Center for Disease Control, I can proudly say that we have one of the best organization in Canada. At least I can say very loudly and clearly that we have a very nice network, and this is a very compact model that we have. We call BC Center for Disease Control, because most of the provinces here, equivalent to your states, like the laboratory and epidemiology and toxicology and environmental and climate, everything is everywhere. But we all are in the one single building. So if I get some data, so my EPID colleague get that instantly, and we talk. We just talk like that in person, and then we meet everybody together. So we have a very unique situation here. So I'm very proud of our system.
You overcame a lot of inadequacies when you first migrated, including your accent and social
Yes.
acceptance. Walk us through the struggle of social acceptance and how you overcame your accent.
Yeah, social acceptance, that initially that I told you that when I went to the university, I knocked, believe me or not, I knocked at least 30 different doors, because even there is a tiny link of microbiology. I went to that department, like microbiology, pathology, pharmacology, like the biochemistry, everything. There is a link. I went. I didn't get an even interview, and because I had you can see my accent today, and you can imagine that prior to 27 years, my accent was even much stronger, and then my English speaking ability was not as good as is today. So right away that I was just said, oh, I'm busy, or the professor is busy, cannot talk to you. And another story, I like to tell the story that I one day I remember still and vividly in my head that that time that I brought very small amount of money with my family, and then money is draining every day, and I have nothing and I don't see any future. So you can see my head what is going on. So that time the bus fare was, I think, $1.50 from my home to university. So going back and forth $3. So I went to the UBC Department of like the microbiology and immunology, and I asked to see the chairperson, and the secretary says, "Oh, he's busy. Come tomorrow." And then I went next day, and he said, "Come tomorrow." I already spent $6. So I was so upset one day that I couldn't resist myself. So I'm sorry today and I apologize. I shouted. I said that, do you think I'm a street beggar? I'm coming here every day. I wanted to see the professor, and you are telling me every day that come tomorrow. Why don't you give me a time? And then I think that professor overheard our conversation, so he came out and then took me in, and he told me very nicely, and I still I'm very very grateful to him that he told me that, my friend, that you came a very wrong time. So there is nothing much that I can offer, and she's trying to do her job. so that was the end of the conversation. So what I'm saying that yes, that accent and that my, like, everything as a package, my dress, my face, my skin, and everything all together as a combo, I was not accepted basically. But then
So,
finally that
yeah,
thing
go
changed
ahead.
after that interview.
Okay, fantastic. So, what I'm hearing you're talking about persistence,
Yeah,
the ability to be consistent about what you want to do in
yeah,
life,
yeah.
and to not giving up.
No.
So, if we can zero down on what you accomplished so far, right? Let's talk about Lyme disease, for example. What are the most common misconceptions about Lyme disease among immigrants, and how do these impact immigrant communities who may lack access to health information?
Yeah. For Lyme disease, for immigrant, there is not so much issues. It is a main issue with the main, like the dominant group, like especially the white Caucasian and mostly white Caucasian that I see the most of the complaint they have Lyme disease issues. And then Lyme disease, there are lots of superstition, lots of myth, and also lots of denial from the physicians. Unfortunately, that some physician flatly said there is no Lyme disease. That is totally lie. That is not true. In contrary, some patient they are suffering from maybe something else, but they do not have Lyme disease, but they are fixative because of some messaging around. They are fixated that they have Lyme disease. So there are two disconnect. So first when I came here, so there is a huge uproar about that Lyme disease issue. So I really wanted to see, because when people call you and then cry over the phone, that means that individual has something. Like people will not have tears unless they suffer really bad. So many patients cried over phone with me. So I thought there is something. So I wholeheartedly wanted to see that what is going on. So we started with the surveillance work. I did lots of active surveillance, like finding ticks from the environment, ticks from the mice, ticks from the birds, and try to find Lyme disease bacteria. And then I found I was successful. We isolated the live bacteria from the mice. We isolated live bacteria from the ticks, which retrieved from the birds. And sometimes say that, oh, that area doesn't have Lyme. You cannot say that, because there are lots of birds migrating over all over. And I showed in few of my paper that birds are migrating ticks from one place to another. We showed that the Lyme disease exists in BC. So we did all sorts of things. In also that I try to give the message to our community, but we do not have as much as Lyme disease as they have in the eastern part of US or eastern part of Canada. Like as for example, Connecticut or New Jersey, their Lyme disease rate is way higher than ours. So as for example, here if I test about 400 to 500 ticks, one tick is positive. And if you get 400 ticks from New Jersey, you will be getting 20 or 30 ticks positive. So you need the differences, because that our tick species is different and mouse species is different and the yeast is different. So there are vector competency. So I kind of did all sorts of ecological and then some genetical and then molecular and the diagnostic work. So now I kind of got, I think that with everybody's support, my colleagues and my laboratory technologist and the scientist and everyone's support, I managed to get that trust from the patient as well as from the physicians, the accuracy of the data that I produced over the years. And as a result, that recently I am working on a project with the CISR funding along with the patients group, that what would be the best optimal test for diagnostic Lyme disease in Canada. So we are trying to find out the best one, because we are testing for 300 patients, we are testing all tests available for Lyme disease in Canada, and then we'll be doing the analysis and seeing that which one would be better for our patients.
So you've also specialized on zoonotic diseases.
Yeah.
If I may, we know ticks do cause certain diseases. So what's the relationship between patients who have ADHD, ADD, Babesia, and Lyme disease? What are the relationships there?
Yeah, Babesia, ADHD mean what? I mean, attention deficit.
Attention deficit disorder and attention attention deficit disorders, and then attention hyperactive
Yeah,
uh,
because
disorders.
those
Yes.
two I'll set aside for now. So I'll talk about babesia. Babesia is a parasite, and they also carried by tick and transmit to human and also animals. So that also most prevalent in Hudson Bay area in USA, in that particular area in Washington
Mhm.
DC and around that surrounding few about the 80 states. And we are now seeing some babesia in certain parts of Canada and the eastern part, especially around Manitoba, and some we are seeing in Newfoundland, sorry, Nova Scotia, but not in the West Pacific coast. We are seeing very few, very few. Even if in the Pacific coast, the whole concept from California, Oregon, Idaho, and the British Columbia, Washington state, the rate is very low. So those parasite is exactly the same as Lyme disease, the way it transmit. However, the babesia signs and symptoms are quite different than Lyme disease. That is kind of
Okay.
malarial disease. And those attention deficit disorder and then ADHD, those people connect with so many things, but I think that is a very complicated issue, and connecting with a particular organism would be very challenging to answer. It might have a multiple factor. It is not only one factor.
So for parents who have children that have babesia, at least in the US side, what we have noted is that there is a lot of misdiagnosis, and most doctors on this side of the world are not really aware or too familiar of diseases like babesia or even ticks.
Mhm.
What are some of the signs that immigrant parents should be watching for when they have a misdiagnosis for such diseases? And is there some form of treatment?
Yes, both Lyme disease, babesia, anaplasma, and ehrlichia, these four diseases, Lyme, anaplasma, babesia, and ehrlichia, these four all can be transmitted from ticks to human or ticks to their pets, like their animal, like cats and dogs. And only
Mhm.
thing that all of those diseases that I mentioned, that tick need to be attached to the body for longer time. So the best thing for the parents, any parents, whenever they take their children for hiking or parking, going to the park or going to the forest for walking or camping or some sorts of outdoor activities, at the end of the day, if they come home and take that tick off nicely with the tweezer, so then there will be very less likely they'll get anything. But at the end of the day, after within 8 hours, if they check and take it out, will be fine. But still some disease like may quickly, they might transmit. So as for example, we are not talking that here, like relapsing fever, there is another kind of ticks. It's a soft tick, not hard tick. So hard tick transmit those four, soft ticks transmit the relapsing fever. So those four, they need long time to transmit to the human being. So best thing to check. Another thing, that before going to the outdoor work, they use the tick repellent, like DEET. So this is one of the things that you can buy from any camping store or any superstore. And if you spray, they have 8 hours longevity. So then tick cannot land on your body, or and especially the exposed area that you don't put in your eyes. I saw some your US politician, they put into their face and show that it works, but I'm not going there. So don't put it to the eye, just put on the exposed area, and if you go there, you will have a no problem. Even that, every all those four diseases I mentioned, it will start with a flu-like symptoms. It will start with a flu-like symptoms. So even if you get a flu-like symptom after all those precautions, immediately should need to go to your physician. Don't delay. Don't delay. If you delay, lots of problem could occur. Immediately go to the doctors and tell them that I took my son for camping, I took my son for outdoor walking for 2 hours, and we found a ticks, and I don't know, I didn't find a ticks, but after 3-4 days she got on a sudden flu-like fever. What should be? Then the physician can do a test after 7 to 10 days for Lyme, for Ehrlichia, for Anaplasma, for Babesia. Babesia is very easy. If somebody has infection, if they see under the microscope the blood, they'll be seeing like malaria type of parasite. It's very easy. It's not very difficult to diagnose if they have the disease, and other can be
Okay.
done as well. So there are good diagnostic method and physicians knows about it. So only thing we have to connect. First, I would say the prevention is the better method as always, because there's a nice quote: prevention is better than cure. So prevention. So you have to take the preventative measure. Even if that doesn't work, still you get fever like flu like fever after 5-6 days or 3-4 days, then ask your listener that if they have such situation, hopefully not, then they should immediately go to their physician and check it out.
Very interesting. I really appreciate that because that really helps. Now, I'm just curious if an immigrant parent finds a tick on the skin of their loved one, should they, when they remove the tick, should they like preserve it, maybe freeze it for the future just in case?
Yeah, in BC that we suggest, now we developed, we used to ask people to send ticks to us, but from last 2 years we developed a program, not our, it's from Montreal they started, we kind of adopted it, called e-tick. So what you will do, so when you go to the, say, those like outdoorsy work, and then you saw it ticks, so we always say that don't squeeze the tick, because if you squeeze the tick, if you push like this, then if you push like this, then you are squeezing their belly, and it's kind of the ticks, that the hypostome is kind of needle. So if you push, then you are injecting the material to yourself, to your body. So just take a tweezer and then take like this and then jerk it out. So that way you properly take the tick out. And then we ask them that you take the picture of the ticks and send it to certain website, that certain email, and they'll immediately get it back that your tick looks like exotis or your looks like this. So please keep the tick in freeze for 1 month. If you are symptomatic, take the tick with you to the doctor. But for US, I think I would always suggest that you have definitely your house has some sorts of small like pill container. Every household has it. When they get pills from the drugstore, they have those plastic container, so they can put it there and then just stuck in the freeze. And if you don't get any symptoms in 4 weeks time, just throw them out.
Okay, very interesting. That really helps. So, how does the socio-economic status of immigrants influence their risk for both zoonotic diseases and related conditions such as ADD, tics, babesia, and ADHD?
Yeah, I will. ADD and ADHD, I'll not go there because that is not my area of expertise, unfortunately. But they may be associated with the infectious disease. I know that there's one infectious disease can make you irritated, that is toxoplasmosis. Is toxoplasma, that is another zoonotic kind of disease. But I'm not going there. But what I can say, that the economic disparity or economic situation is directly related to anything you can think about. The finance is related to your education, finance is related to your health, finance is related to your depression or everything. So if your finance is bad, then I don't think, because it's unwillingly that people have not ability to cope up that issue. And also I'll say that too much money is not good either, but we need to have a certain amount of money so that we can live comfortably. But I think that is immigrant. I can see that when you do not have time to buy 2 pieces of loaf, the bread for your family, then how will buy the medication for your family? But Canada, that fortunately that we have a kind of universal healthcare system, but still certain medication you have to pay. So we can see lots of the poor people are suffering through this, and then because they have hypertension like blood pressure, sometimes they don't have money to buy it. and then sometimes they are getting. So I think, and then also that when you are in a financial s- situation, then what happened, then the depression kicks in, and unfortunately there's lots of drugs available, so younger generation, they are addicted to drugs. So this all vicious cycle downward, right? And then you are in a
Yes.
situation to coming upward is become very, very, very challenging.
One of the reasons why immigrants migrate, obviously, is running from poverty and diseases. And as we're having this conversation, I find that there is a collision between those two areas. So, when immigrants migrate to a new country, how important is it for them to take a hold of their financial world and have control of how they are generating revenue and how they spend their income?
Yes, I think this is, Martin, a very good question, but it's very, very difficult for me to answer because, like, for me, I immigrated by choice because I had a very good job. I told you at the beginning, I was a professor, my wife was a scientist, so we had a good situation back home. So our immigration was by choice, but unfortunately, many people, millions, their immigration is not by their choice. They are thrown out from their country without anything, with the bare hand, or they are kind of life-threatening situation, so they had to flee from their country. So if you think about the refugee from Afghanistan, if you think about the refugee from Syria, refugee from Ukraine, refugee from Libya, and then all sorts of people came with nothing because they had maybe lots of things, but they had no access when they left. So those people came here with zero, just zero. So then we really need to be standing behind them or beside them, because to take them as our own, and then that let them handheld and then walk them through, so that they can be the also a contributing citizen tomorrow. So I can see that I'm not a politician, but I can see there is lots of lip service, but not much real service are given to them, unfortunately.
So, are there specific public health policies you think would improve disease detection and prevention among immigrant populations?
Yeah, I think that there are in Canada certainly that immigrant, that those people are refugee or immigrant, so they are kind of covered in certain way for any if the, and another thing for Canada is very good, that anybody anytime any moment they can go to the hospital emergency and get the due care. So that is given. So I don't know, in US I heard that you have to have insurance to go through, and I don't know in detail about the US policy, but I heard that there are many disconnects, so many people do not get the care. But here that is not the case. However, there is lots of incarcerated, underprivileged, and also like substance user group. They are having trouble to get access to those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, very interesting. So, if I may just comment on the U.S. side, the hospital systems here will treat any patient that goes through the ER. Um, Whether you get the best treatment during that time or whether you get to stay for a time period, that I cannot comment on. But just like in Canada, in the US too,
Mhm.
immigrants can walk into a hospital and get treatment. It would be better if you do have health insurance, which
Mhm.
is obviously available to anyone who can afford it.
Mhm.
And this is why I was asking about the question of being better stewards of our revenue and resources.
Yeah, I think.
How have you balanced your professional success with maintaining your cultural identity at the same time, well-being as an immigrant?
Yeah, I think that that is challenging, but I think that if you do a careful planning, and it is not impossible, but keeping cultural identity is also a real challenge. And as for example, like we came with one daughter, so I'll give my family example rather than giving citing anybody else. So she came here when she was grade 7, but she still have a lot of respect for our language. But unfortunately, because we both are professional and we had no time to take her to the school that she can learn how to write and read or something, so she can speak, but unfortunately she cannot write anymore. She cannot translate that whatever is happening. Even the long sentence is broken or something. So I'm sure that the next generation might lose everything that our language. So that is one of the very very challenging situation. Although that in our community here in Vancouver, that we have a big community society, so they are trying to uh, do a Bengali school. But again, that like me, every parents who come here, they are very busy to run their family, and they do not have time for their children. And they, at this point, they are thinking my children going to school, getting education and get job, and that is my job. So they are not thinking ahead of time. So after 27 years I'm thinking, oh my god, what I have done. If I would take my daughter to Bengali school, she still would have some skill to write to her relatives back home or have communication with back home, but that is gone. So not me. So out of 100, you can say that 80 or 90% people are on my boat. So
So
ultimately,
if I,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So what I'm saying, ultimately after second generation, the language is totally that they are forgetting that language, they're forgetting that culture, they're embracing the new world. So which is not wrong, but I think that now that what another thing is happening in Canada and globally, that our indigenous brothers and sisters, they're trying to bring up their language and their culture and everything. So I think that one day maybe we will also think the same way that they are thinking now after many hundred years. So I think that is a big challenge, and I don't know how to resolve this. And it's a kind of, again, is a catch 2020. If you do not work hard and go to our profession, you cannot stand here where I'm today. And if you just go with your culture only, then she might know how to write a Bengali letter to her grandma, but she will be nowhere. So there is a kind of, this delicate balance is very very extremely challenging.
So I have to ask you, what is the cultural value of wanting to keep uh, the language, or what most people would consider your mother tongue, in comparison to speaking a new language in the country that you've adopted and probably will live the rest of your life?
Yeah, I think that keeping mother language is always better, but the culture, that is the culture, that what culture gives you, that you raise into a culture, that culture only not give you the language and dress and how to talk, but also give you the moral value. Like that in our culture, that we are taught how to take care of parents, so, or grandparents. So that is the moral value that we develop. So, and also that we develop the moral value of taking care of, that when my father will be gone, so I will be the head of the family, basically the hypothetical head, not true head. But then it will come on me automatically that I have to take care of all my siblings and their children as well, not totally financially, but by giving advice, by connecting with them, communicating with them. So you will be always with them. But here, like when you are 18, then even parents wants you go out and then you live your own life. So there are some advantages in that life. So you are developing your independence, you are developing your independent mind. But I think that connection is getting looser and looser and looser. So then what happened, that many parents that I have heard, but I'm fortunate, my daughters call me every day. But I have heard from many parents that their children don't call them in a week. this is unthinkable from our culture where I came from. Like my mother passed away during COVID, but I used to talk to my mother every Thursday. Every Thursday here, I mean Friday there, that is holiday. And if I don't phone, then my mother thought maybe my son is sick. So you see that bondage. So that will be missing. So that is the culture, and I don't think that is bad. But many people think that, oh, you are mommy's boy. It's not mommy's boy. It's kind of the how you connect to your family and your siblings and everybody. So that will be missed over time. So that is, I don't know, is it everything has a good, everything has a bad, but again, how you will utilize it basically.
If you were speaking to a group of immigrants aspiring to make significant contribution to their fields, their communities, and their societies they have adopted, especially in the sciences, what would you say to them?
I would say that work hard, be sincere, be honest, and be resilient, and try to contribute as much as you can for the society, because your contribution you are doing to the society, but ultimately you are contributing yourself, because your contribution to the society is coming back to you as a result. And if we all do that, then it will be a beautiful society.
Immigrant Tribe. Today we have been speaking to Dr. Muhammad Morshed. He is an aspiring immigrant success story and a global leader in microbiology. Born in Bangladesh, he pursued his MSc in microbiology at Dhaka University and later earned a PhD in medical microbiology from Yamaguchi University in Japan. Overcoming the challenges of adapting to new cultures and systems, over time, he has become the premier leader at the clinic as a clinical professor at the University of British Columbia and head of zoonotics and emerging pathogens at BCCDC. Dr. Morshed has transformed and understanding of Lyme disease and syphilis, contributing over 150 scientific publications and received accolades like the RBC Top 25 Canadian Immigrants Award. His groundbreaking research, global advocacy, and commitment to immigrant health makes him a true trailblazer and a guest of the Immigrant Nation podcast.
Thank you
Dr.
very much.
Moshe, before we take off, what's your last words for our immigrants?
I think to my all immigrant brother and sister, what I tell you that you are in a new country and this is your country now. So try to do your best, and again make sure you will never ever give up. Be resilient and be strong, and God will be with you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Morshed. We will be resilient and persistent in everything we do. Thank you. We appreciate your time, and hopefully, one of these fine days, we can get to have a conversation again. Let us know if there's any way we can support you and can contribute to your contribution in society. Thank you again, and welcome again to the Immigrant Nation podcast.
And thank you for again for having me. Thank you very much.
Of course, you're welcome. Thank you.